is one of the better support players right now we have in the league. I think that they're gonna take the game.
And with that, we are going to head onto the Rift, and it's my distinct pleasure to give over the mic to the relentlessly remarkable Rebel and the markedly magical Milky. Take it away, Jan.
Thank you very much for that, Yulway. To be honest, Rebel, I thought that was going to be one of our VCS specials of giving you a really nice introduction and then just saying, and Milky. But I'm really happy to be alongside you. It's our first time casting together this split, so let's make it a banger.
Yeah, it's always a nice time. Takes us back to the olden days of being able to when we used to jump into cast together. Can I ask you whether this is one of the okay? Why are we seeing Easy Love right now?
Why are we seeing Easy Love? So here's what happened, right? We had the series of AS Esports against Wealth, and AS Esports did really good, and Uji had that play where he was like really cool on Zeri, and because he's Uji, he's a prince, that play was enough to turn him into the king. So he's had to go off to his coronation ceremony where he's going from Uji to whatever the Japanese word for king is, and then we'll see him back for AS Esports' next series.
That or we'll see him in the next game when this one inevitably goes poorly for the side of AS Esports, but I guess we'll find that out once the series is over, at least. But we do get a look at Biggie, which is kind of cool. We weren't necessarily expecting that. There was actually a couple of roster moves that came through for some of the bottom tier teams, and we're excited for the future of today being able to talk about that. Biggie is actually not somebody I usually track a lot of like VCSB stuff. Biggie has never played for a VCSB team, or at least not under the alias Biggie. And so it's kind of astonishing that they went out into solo queue. They found a really talented player, and they are just bringing him in for basically a trial run on this Lee Sin. Already throwing it to the king of top lane too.
He's looking towards Emperor. The Ignite has already been dropped down now. Can Emperor find a solo kill? Absolutely not. And it is first blood for 2T Sakali.
Goodness gracious, already right out the gate, Biggie going in for an aggressive bit of jungling here, wanting to make that early action happen, knowing to make that strike just as quick as possible, making sure to free up 2T, who, again, he was a mid laner, but one of the only champions we've seen them play to any extent in the past previously was the Akali. It's not my favorite thing in the entire world, but obviously it is certainly comfort for 2T because, again, it's one of the very limited number of champions that he's had success on in his tenure, not only here on AS Esports, but also in GAM. So Biggie playing very quickly to his solo lane. Hopefully that's a continuing trend because I do love seeing this early strike, and I don't even know what there is to say about this. Emperor was just so far up, wasn't expecting the level 2 gank coming out from this Lee Sin this quickly in the game.
If I could just draw a parable very quickly, this is similar to if you compared the VCS to a prison ground. Biggie is the new person in the prison, and he's saying, right, I need to find the biggest guy in the prison and beat him up to prove myself. And he went straight for Emperor. Now DNK is looking towards the mid lane. The distortion is going to allow Playcool to make his way out to safety, and the gank will be unsuccessful for DNK's Rek'Sai.
Yeah, this is also something that we didn't talk about a ton, which is the Rek'Sai coming through from DNK being this like massive early game engine for this team and wanting to make some action. We know DNK is like the Nocturne player, having a bunch of these like lethality type or at least old school lethality type junglers ready and raring to go for any game that comes through. And now wanting to get a little bit aggressive into Biggie. I don't think spotted him right there, but now he's going to, and he's going to look to be aggressive.
He smites the Gromp, Ward hops his way out, so DNK saw the Gromp flashing away before his eyes. I'm pretty sure Biggie was able to get that one with the smite, and all goes back to just farming ways in the VCS.
Yeah, super easy to kick things off, nothing too crazy. You could really appreciate that. And I do wonder, I know Clockwork had talked on our desk, and I know we had talked about this as well, before the series had started. It's one of our important matchups being the bottom lane here between specifically Uji and Celebrity. And I do wonder if they decide, hey, if we're going to play weak side on bot lane, if we're not going to play something very strong, maybe they feel more comfortable with it being easy love, not playing something aggressive. We know Uji's like the Draven player and a very powerful type of team fighter, very powerful type of laner, but oftentimes gets those resources. And if they don't plan on having Biggie head into the bottom lane, or if that's not something that's been practiced necessarily, maybe that's the purpose for Easy Love being in on this Sivir, just able to kind of sit there in the laning phase and collect what he needs to.
Now, Beast has brought forward a very good stat as Dia 1 trying to predict the LeBlanc's position. Now, DNK looking towards his mid lane. Dia 1 has been killed by Biggie, who picks up the second kill of the game for AS Esports, but 2T is left with nowhere to go, and it's going to be an easy kill for Emperor's Gwen.
That it is. But mid lane, there was a strike back, so AS Esports was able to find at least a little bit of something, as it's Biggie who picks up yet another win and crashes a wave underneath the mid wave. Now it's Paulette who wants to be aggressive.
Does he have Ignite?
He does. Yeah, he does. Paulette's kind of crazy. Oh, Maniac across the map, just making sure. This is the play from earlier because Playcool was super low here. Oh, yeah, okay. I knew that DL1 missed the charm. Must have just had absolutely nothing else ready to go, trying to waste it all on Playcool to make sure the kill would come through, and a nice just punish collected by Biggie as a result of everything else. So far then, Rebel,
yeah. Biggie. Well, what kind of... I know it's very early in the game. I know it's very early in his VCS career, but what do we think of him so far in his first 6 minutes of gameplay?
I mean, first off, you can't ever ask somebody to judge the first 6 minutes of gameplay.
That's why I'm doing it.
If you're gonna make me do it, the thing that has really impressed me about junglers previously, like prior to Biggie, for when it comes to new junglers, is usually ones that are smart and control the map. I know last split Flash had a couple of junglers that did that, and Hio really hasn't been that way. And usually when a mechanical jungler walks into this, walks into the league, they get kind of stomped because every jungler is amazing inside of this league. Biggie collected a couple of things, had some interesting pathing. I'm liking it, right? Like Biggie looked pretty good to start with. Now, I'm not giving him any sort of credence that is not completely earned at this point. Because again, Biggie literally walked into lane with burnt Emperor's Ignite and killed him at level 1, then came in on the cover of Playcool after the 2nd level. So now we get a little bit more action.
Xin finds the engager onto Palette, gets a knockup, and Palette has no summoners on this Lulu, and it means it's an easy kill for Playcool to be able to secure.
Yeah, moving down from mid lane, actually sacked mid wave specifically to move off of this one means that Playcool takes a little bit of an L right here in exchange for the kill on the bottom side, so at least gets to match the gold. And the Dragon got opened up there for a minute. I think the reinforce with Dia1 pushing in mid wave combined with the presence of DNK potentially being the bottom side was enough for AS Esports not to strike for the Dragon. It is just the kill coming through. Because, in the grand scheme of things, I think Playcool understood that, after the first wave gets dumped, that's fine. But if 2 waves get dumped, now the experience and the gold really start to add up to more than the kill. And if they lose the Dragon there, that's just a complete disaster. So instead, they go back to lane. Playcool is going to stack up a wave really effectively. DNK and Palette are going to be able to punish him if he steps too far up here. And that might actually be enough to break open the mid lane here to move into the bottom lane position. You see Biggie's not really in a position to support this in any way other than if they extend really far. Here we go.
He's here, the charm does land, they get the kill onto the LeBlanc, but kicked under tower is DNK, and Biggie turns it into a 1-for-1 play.
And once again, I mean, this is just solid coverage from Biggie because, again, we're laying out the situation where, they are walking into mid to punish this so that they could go for a Dragon. But the mid push means that EasyLove and Xin get it back, and it's not going to be punished by a Dragon move from either Palette or Dia1 and DNK to try to collect anything. Again, you're asking me to give live kind of commentary on how Biggie's playing. Already, I'm really loving the way he's reading the map so far. And if this is the jungler they had in reserve, or at least they have in reserve to be able to work with, I'm really happy for the prospects of AS Esports because he's looking good right now. Again, it's really tough to tell this early in the career. He's had exactly 1 game on the Lee Sin, but doesn't mean anything. Is now Rift Herald's on the board.
Well, one might say he's not even had that 1 game on a Lee Sin. Yeah, a fight over the Scuttle Crab on the top side, secured by DNK and SBTC. Now, this game coming into it, we thought, okay, we're looking at AS Esports. They're right at the bottom of the standings. We're looking at SBTC, one of the top teams in the league. This should be a relatively comfortable 2-0 for SBTC. And we were thinking, okay, what does this mean for AS Esports? And for AS Esports, it's a chance to kind of prove themselves that they are continuing to get better and better over the course of the split and try and avoid those 2 relegation spots come the end of Summer Split. And with this introduction of Biggie, it's looking like they're continuing to make the steps in that right direction.
Yeah, when we were trying to kind of see, at least suss out a little bit of what was going to happen with this roster come offseason if they were to go into relegations, even if we were to pass through, I don't think it would have been ridiculous to say that a lot of them could have been replaced coming in. But this is a step in the right direction. Again, if this ends up being a solid play to work out, they've got enough players that I think this is a foundation I'd like to continue to see built upon inside of the VCS's Tutti in the top lane. DNK.
Void Rush, perfect execution, survives. has to be careful because the missile could be coming through at any moment. But Zin, Biggie, Easy Love, Play Cool, they're all coming to help their Akali. But the Rakan is a little bit too late to the play. Can't get the shield off in time. Either way, Emperor will fall. DNK is the next one. Flashes over the Krug pit wall, but it doesn't matter because Zin and Play Cool are on the chase, and Play Cool will be able to secure the kill.
Okay, now in grand retrospect at the moment, once again, it's AS Esports who have been doing a good job kind of collectively making these plays to cover for any aggression that SE has been able to bring to the table over the course of this game. The problem is Dia1 has been a menace when it comes to macro. That mid lane push that got dumped from Play Cool, the attempted play in the mid lane also where they almost pulled the dragon off the back of it if it weren't for the save of Mickey. And right there, 2 plates on the bottom tower, 2.5 plates on the bottom tower, and most of that wave getting dumped for basically nothing is a solid trade-off for the couple of kills that they pulled right there in exchange for just like the 1 kill underneath the tower. There's always a trade-off here from the side of SBTC. That was also like DNK kind of misappropriated, I think, the E. If he throws it a little bit more to the right, gets the knock-up, then immediately executes 2T. And Emperor at least could split off of DNK instead of having to wait here. I don't know, 2T just like barely survived that one too. And it was dead as soon as that happened, right? Like this was the play. But also, again, keep your attention elsewhere on the map, because I think DNK also should have tried to stay as far up as he could have instead of attempting to escape, because if he keeps them far away from the mid lane, far away from the bot lane, it gets them even more. But you can see it netted 2 plates on the bottom side and a plate in mid lane, a dumped wave, at least 1.5 dumped waves on the bottom side for SE, who are, again, they're getting run through when it comes to some of the plays, but at minimum, the gold is still there for SE.
And I want to go back to the point that you were talking about with regards to Dia1, the macro that he brings. Because when you look towards the top mid laners in the split, I would say, of course, you've got Artifact, you've got Dia1. I'd even say maybe you put Glory in there because he's just so incredibly lane dominant as well. But Dia1 has always been very good because he's able to roam so effectively. And you won't find him with like big CS leads in the laning phase, but his roaming is so good. I feel like in this game so far, we've been seeing Play Cool enabled on the map a lot more than Dia1, and I don't know if that's just because he's playing LeBlanc.
Maybe that's the case. I mean, Play Cool got broken out relatively early, and Dia1 has been able to return with a bit of fire on the opposite side of things. I think you're right. I think it's a different style of way that Dia1 really does win the map, because he is still this excellent team fighter, but I think that's not what he's reliant on to be a really good mid laner, as opposed to some of the other players inside of the league. Instead, again, the intelligence really does poke through, which is something that we missed when he was gone for an entire year of play inside of the VCS and wanting to establish himself, establish his team as a flat powerhouse. I think long-term is a goal for not just the organization in SBTCE, but also Dia1 specifically, just wanting to reestablish himself as not even competitively, but just the best mid laner inside of the split. Was having a really good first half for exactly that purpose.
And kind of feeding off on that point as well, SBTC right now, they do have a goalie. They were able to pick up the first tower of the game, despite AS Esports seemingly getting a very good start to this game. And for this series in general, we talked about the importance of it for AS Esports. When you look over to the side of SBTC, they started this split off so well, but over the last couple of weeks, they've been forgotten to the extent that we're talking about this being a 3 teams at the top. You're looking at Saigon Buffalo, you're looking at Team Secret, you're looking at Gammon. A lot of people already starting to throw SBTC out of the discussion, and with games like this early game against AS Esports, maybe that will continue, as now we've got to play on the top side. The quickness used onto Emperor, being dived under the tower, the teleport a little bit too late, the safeguard not enough to keep Biggie alive, and it ends up in a 1-for-1 play.
Needed 1 tower shot tanked right there from 2T or Zin. That would have been more than enough to actually kick that off. I think Zin had actually zapped back out in order to not tank some of the aggro, and I think if he had waited just a 1/10 of a second longer to get the second tower shot onto him instead of anything else, then maybe that would not have been the case, and instead it would have been more than easy to just pull 1 kill for 1 kill right there. As underneath the mid tower goes TNK, that's a very dead easy, love.
No summoners up for the Sivir, and the Spell Shield can only do so much. So a kill for SBTC, and a mid lane outer tower falling as well, which is really going to open up the map for SE.
Yeah, and I mean, even 2T kind of getting collapsed on by Paulette right here, as I do not doubt in the slightest that they're willing to bully him quite a bit. Oh, goodness gracious, yeah, it's just another death. it's SBTC. They're doing such a good job at showing exactly what we were kind of referring to just seconds ago when it came to, at one point, this was a team that was vying for top 2 in the split. They went 3 full games with Team Secret before losing. There's just action all over the place. Biggie
gets it, flashes over the wall, survives as well. That was about as close as you like, and how Biggie survived, I don't quite know. DNK might want to get the snipe, you might want to find an execution, but I think the Lee Sin is just about far enough away to be able to survive. And AS Esports, I feel like they're falling back into what we have seen from them from time to time. Whenever they look good, we see them looking good in the early stages of the game. Once we get into the mid, the late game, that's when AS Esports really start to show the chinks in their armor.
This game specifically, I think, was like a pseudo good early game, because once again, like, the kill count is higher for AS Esports, and there have been great moments where they've been able to cover for people effectively. The CS numbers don't look particularly bad, but you look at the structure damage that they've given, how much they've had to just exchange in order to make sure that these plays don't go as poorly as imagined, and it's been just so much that's just been given to the side of SE basically for free, right? Like, there's so many of these plays, they just happen with absolutely no abandon for what else is happening across the map. This was crazy as well. What happened right there? Did Biggie like auto the tower by accident? I'm not exactly sure, because it seemed like it was one auto away, and that one auto didn't really do anything, and I think he might have tagged the tower there, which would cause him to have to at least flash one more time. I think he might have had to burn it anyway, as Playcool jumps in, just gets Everfrosted up by Dia1 and dies as well. And this is AS Esports, I think, now getting hands checked a little bit. At the beginning of the game, they tried as hard as they could to make sure that they'd be even in the kill count. But now, I mean, they're down over 3,000 gold anyway. It just does not matter.
And I think we saw the interaction at the desk, and I think it was in particular Rev was alluding to about how useful Palette on this Lulu can be. Every time Playcool, tries to fish for that little bit of poke, that little bit of burst, you can instantly polymorph the LeBlanc, and then you've got the Everfrost from the Ahri, and it just turns into a very easy pick for SBTC.
Sure does. I mean, it's a position that, like, you have to be very cautious about your approach from Playcool. And you have multiple members to kind of go in first, right? Like, Xin, 2T, and Biggie are all members that can jump in well before the LeBlanc does to make some sort of havoc happen, so that you're not just, like, tanking the brunt of that polymorph, tanking the brunt of the Everfrost, and the charm from Ahri, anything that can kind of stop you in place. But Dia1 holding that one in that fight was very effective. And like you said, even Palette is capable of doing that. And it makes it difficult for Playcool to try to manage some of the fights. And again, this has never been a team that I think has been super, super reliant when it comes to team fighting over the course of the split. As Xin goes underneath, actually doesn't even tag Dia with that ultimate.
And now the teleports and the rotation coming through from SBTC, and Dia1 ends up dying following the teleport. It becomes a 1-for-1 as Biggie falls as well. Palette will pop the Shurelias. Do they look for more? Ultra Shock Laser will not land onto anyone. It's a double kill for DNK as 2T will bite the bullet. 2-for-1 overall in the top lane.
Always just finding a little bit more here and there is the side of SE. AS Esports go for another play. This time it is responded to from the side of SE, and they lose multiple on the back end. 2T going down as well, the Rift Herald going down as well. And again, it's this like snowball effect of these additional objectives, these additional gold values going over to the side of SE that have made the difference all game, right? If you're trading a kill for a tower, but you're dumping a wave, that's a good amount of gold that you're actually losing. This was an aggression against Dia1. Xin didn't even tag Dia1 to start with here. And I do appreciate that Biggie, in the midst of this, was able to at least turn for some kind of a play. Because if he does this individually, I think he gets the kill, whether Playcool's there or not. I can't tell how much damage that Playcool did versus what Biggie did right there. But neither one of them were the ones that ended up getting played. It was 2T that ended up dying going in after on the back of everything else probably goes down anyway. But the whole point of this is that like the one individual play they could have found to go 1-for-1 right there that might not have cost them as much map space or maybe done anything as wide sweeping as multiple kills, it again bleeds over to SE far more than we thought it was going to.
Well, AS Esports, I wouldn't say backs against the rope just yet, but they are definitely trailing in this game. You're looking at nearly a 4k gold deficit. We don't have a Drake up. I thought both teams were kind of posturing around that third Drake of the game, but still got 2.5 minutes for that. So right now it's just a case of throwing waves to each other, or in AS Esports' case, looking for a pick onto Palette. They get a lot of damage down. Boomerang Blade chunks Palette low, but not quite low enough to be able to secure a kill.
Yeah, and I think solid kind of return right there, because they could have jumped underneath that tower with the TP coming in. That could have been disastrous, especially if the jungler goes down. If Biggie dies in the midst of that, you don't have a smite to compete for the Baron. That's going to be coming up in 30 seconds exclusively. 2 minutes out from the Dragon, so that wouldn't have been necessarily under threat significantly, but that certainly would have popped the game wide open for SE if they pull a Baron this quickly inside of a game like this. Like you said, though, they're not necessarily out of it. I think the one biggest problem that they've got is that Easy Love versus Celebrity is not exactly an Easy Love favored matchup when it comes to late game team fighting. And I think Sivir is very good at team fighting, but Celebrity is on an incredibly powerful 2.5 item Zeri at this moment right now with a Lulu backing up. Like, that, you are not beating this team fight if Celebrity is able to play a more front to back type style of play, which is something I also want to bring up, which is that SE, when it comes to the players we thought were going to step up for this team this split, I don't think anyone really expected Celebrity and Palette to do as well as they did. Like, they've really stepped back into like the OG form for those two, where Celebrity is like the king of pentakills and Palette was this player that we thought was at or near the top of the support pool for like basically a year and a half. Palette basically died off and was doing nothing on Flash, was considered a hindrance to the point where they substituted him out, but has actually had a really, really big resurgence here in this split, that it's one of the biggest reasons why SE has been the contender that they have been, and trying to prove themselves not just a playoff team, but a Worlds qualifying team.
And let's not forget, Palette as well, winning the spring and summer split back in 2024 Flash, and as you mentioned, had that off split, or off couple of splits, to be honest. But this split has really been coming into his own, and we've been seeing him roaming around a lot more. And I feel like towards the start of the split, we kind of thought, the two best supporters in the league, Palette and Shu Hao. Then we've seen the return of B as DNK getting caught out. Nice, perfect execution from the wall from 2T, and it's enough to pick not just the kill, but the shutdown onto the Rek'Sai as well.
Not just that, but it also opens up the Dragon here for a mini. And it's not a huge Dragon, because it's not going to be third one for the side of AS Esports, as we jumped away from 2T at the exact wrong time, because Emperor pulls himself a little bit of a bolo right there, as the rest of AS Esports is kind of engaging out of the mid lane. But the Emperor teleport without ultimate, without Ignite, is going to be enough to drive them away from at least the mid lane. And I honestly don't think they care if the Dragon goes down at this point. They just pull mid, inner tower, maybe even a little bit more, as they could just kind of hold the entrance here very easily. They could walk into top as well, and no one's here to respond to this. It feels like AS Esports once again just got completely out macroed, especially again if they end up losing top tower off the back of this, would be completely destructive.
And I really want to praise Palette in that previous play, and it's quite nice how we were talking about Palette improving, and then he made that play, because as soon as Xin popped the quickness, Palette just polymorphed him, and Xin just couldn't do anything at all.
Okay, so this was DNK. He was going after the Scuttle Crab to try to set up for the Dragon inevitably. And also, I think it was actually really nice from 2T, because 2T waited out the timer specifically to try to use the Shuriken flip alongside the ultimate, and DNK, rather than attempting to flash in a unique angle, actually ended up attempting to flash right as the end of the Shuriken flip came through, when 2T was already in the air, and it made it so that there was absolutely no way out. But of course, everything burnt, delivers him into the waiting arms of Emperor to pull him. I don't even know if that counts as a solo kill, unfortunately, because he did knock him up. Yeah, that almost certainly doesn't count as a solo kill, even though DNK basically did nothing right there, because I think he did a small amount of damage that led to an assist.
He forced 2T to burn his spells, and I think that counts. If the Akali doesn't have a Shuriken flip or an ultimate available, it makes it slightly easier to be able to get on top of the champion and find a kill. Emperor currently, for those people who don't know, Emperor is currently sitting at the top of the solo kills in the VCS, has 30 solo kills from, I don't know how many games he's played, probably like 20 something. Either way, a very impressive amount, and will almost certainly be increasing over the remainder of the split as well.
Yeah, I know before the desk I had kind of thrown the stat out, because one of our somebody else had mentioned it inside of the back room, and I said it was 11,000, and yeah. I know you said like, oh, I don't know where you're getting that statistic, and I'm like, is it really that much different from 30? Like 30 kills is so many kills.
I mean, like, to be honest, Rebel, you do physics, which is the same as math. You take 30, you put it to the power of itself, and you're already well above 10,000. So what is the difference, really?
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like it's just so many solo kills that Enper's been able to bring. And again, it still just bodes this incredible performance that SE has had over the course of the split, right? A lot of these players are kind of coming into their own, not even necessarily for the first time, just coming together for the first time as one cohesive unit. Paulette coming off Flash being this contender, Celebrity coming through and being this massive contender we wanted him to be, DNK living up to expectations. I don't think he's had the most miraculous of splits, but at minimum has been, in my opinion, it's never been the case that DNK has been so bad that he couldn't have gone to playoffs or been a playoff jungler by any standard. Is Enper, he's looking for... Don't ruin this. Don't ruin this for him.
Don't ruin...
Oh, my
Wait,
goodness.
the Shurelius is enough.
It was a solo kill waiting to happen. Come on, Celebrity and Polite. Give him another one. What are we doing?
His team is actually ruining Enper's statistics. But to go a little bit further on SBTC right now, I feel like this is a team where you can make an argument, and a very strong argument, about every single player arguably being the best player in their role for this particular split. But yet they've been struggling that little bit. So for you, what do you think has been the difference between a team like SBTC and, let's say, Team Secret Gam, or in recent weeks, Saigon Buffalo?
I would say one of the biggest ones is that their team fighting is not always perfect. I still think that they're lacking in some of that department. And the other big thing is that they're a very momentum-based team. It feels like when they fall behind, it's very easy to stay behind if you're SE. They don't have a lot of ways to dig themselves out of bad situations. This was a game where, like, I feel as though they knew what to do because they understood that AS Esports was going to give them openings if they decided to lean super heavily into one side of the map, which worked perfectly. But not every team has to do that. Not every team has to burn that much just to go striking on one side of the map or the other when they can make kind of individual plays and things of that sort. So to me, it's SBTCE, their struggles when it comes to like the hyper late game team fights that don't always work out, where they're not at an advantage or they're not doing something amazing. And when their early game doesn't go perfect, I think it is a little bit more of a struggle bus for them. And so as the split continues, the thing I really want to see, I don't even care necessarily if they end up in a position where they're like commanding a lead or they're in second place or first place or something coming into the split. What I want to see, and what I talked to you about a little bit before the series started, is that we've never really had 4 teams in playoffs here in the VCS that feel like they should have been in qualification or like in competition for a world's qualification spot. It's always been like GAM is the #1 team and then everybody else is competing for second. And then we started to get like Flash came along and they beat GAM and it's like, oh wow, this team is insane. Then Saigon Buffalo came along and now they've got a bit of a rival. Team Secret kind of came into form as of last split and almost drove Saigon Buffalo out of that MSI qualifying spot, and they were right there as well at the tail end. Now they're #1 in the splits. This is the 4th team that we've seen enter, and I don't want to see another team like Cerberus from last split where it's like they got into playoffs because we needed a 4th playoff team. I want to see a team that is competitive and that can beat GAM and Saigon Buffalo and Team Secret in any series come the end of the split. What is this? I've never seen this many Rek'Sai tunnels in one play. In fairness, I don't see Rek'Sai, but goodness gracious, DNK.
That's where the Rek'Sai tunnel is going, game. As we've got a Void Rush, that's going to go onto EC Love. He's going to flash over the wall. This does mean that Biggie is caught out, hops away, but DNK will follow, finds the knock-up. Biggie's surely going to fall, stays alive for a while, courtesy of the Gore Drink, but in the end, it will still be a kill for SBTC. And now they can do whatever they want. They can go to a Baron, they can look for a Drake.
If they can, I think it's super easy for them to be able to close out a game exactly like this one. It's even on the other side of the map, Enper is just taking a tower in the face of TT. TT can't really fight him. This is the last ditch effort. I think the TP in, they're going to be down a member. DNK is actually kind of low. I respect that they're willing to pull out of the Dragon Pit right now, but if they find play cool, it's going to be easy enough to play the other direction.
Xin again gets polymorphed during the quickness. In goes play cool. DR1 chunked out low, but not low enough play cool though. With the distortion, we'll be able to find the kill. Look how low DNK is. As in goes 2T, cleaning up SBTC. It's a double kill for the Akali and 3 kills for AS Esports.
And we said it seconds ago where it was such it's not really that difficult to see that this team sometimes has their struggles, has their problems. And that right there, SE was not understanding the position they were thrust into. And I got to give props to Playcool during this to be able to throw the Zonias up and to be able to deny them access to fighting top side of the river directly into fighting back down the river, which I think was the optimal play here. Because as soon as they got pinched between the two, they lost. And Nat is going to flip this game on its head. AS Esports gets so much. Enper might be able to solo kill 2T here, which would be at least something to get back. The rest of AS Esports is going to run at Enper, who doesn't have ultimate, and might actually not be able to find him. Ooh, Enper. Okay, no, he's just going to get
Yeah, he's gonna die. He got the solo kill, so it's worthwhile. Even if he gave a shutdown over to Biggie, which I feel like, considering the situation, AS Esports maybe could have given that gold over to Playcool or Easy Love.
Maybe. But again, props to Playcool, because again, look how much he burns. He burns the Charm, he burns multiple members. 3 came in from the backside of the fight, and then the Zonias, look what they burnt over the course of this fight. Now it's all up to Celebrity to be able to do some work, but nobody was really in range for them to be able to accomplish that. Chuti also on the backside of this fight, getting dropped insanely low, but finding 2 kills, making sure there's nobody else to really stand in front of Celebrity. And without Emperor's ultimate, they just didn't have much to work with in way of team fighting, and it means AS Esports right back into the thick of things. 3.5 items on the Sivir. They're feeling great about the position now, or at least a lot better about their position at this moment. They're tied in Dragons 2-2, which does suck because they were on the board potentially to set up a soul point on their next Dragon, which could have given them a lot of momentum walking into the back half of this game. As right now, it is still slightly SE favored, although I think, again, it to me ends up being a challenge between Easy Love and Celebrity in the later stage of the game. That last fight was indicative. Celebrity was having trouble putting damage into the right members.
Now, whenever a Baron gets secured against, let's say the flow of the game, and in this case, AS Esports coming from a position where they weren't doing well as 2T, getting caught out, can he find a kill here? No, he's just knocked around in the Twilight Shroud, and DR1 will be able to find the kill. But to go back to my previous point, Baron buffs in this situation usually means that the losing team gets to stall out the game. So my question that I pose with it is, what are AS Esports looking towards, and does stalling out the game really help AS Esports get to a strong point in itemization or for their comp in some way?
I see, this is a problem to have to consider, mostly because 2T jumping into the backline was really big. Playcool jumping in the backline can cause a lot of problems in a number of ways. Xin even getting into the backline, I think, is something to pay attention to just as a way to disrupt the enemy team. But if you end up playing any sort of a team fight where you don't put pressure into Celebrity, Celebrity can always carry from front to back. Celebrity can always just auto-attack whoever's in front. There's no one to really soak that damage, and it means that this, this area is going to be putting out damage in spades over the course of a team fight, and it makes it difficult. So to me, it's actually a testament of, like, I tested earlier that this is Easy Love versus Celebrity. It actually might not be as easy as that. It might be 2T and Playcool going up against Celebrity inside of a game like this. We wanted to establish this ADC versus ADC type of play, but I just don't know if that matters. I think if it comes down to front to back type team fighting, that it's going to be easier for Celebrity to put out the damage than Easy Love, at least in very, very quick succession, if nobody is there to soak any of the damage coming through from AS Esports. And so to me, it's up to Playcool, 2T, maybe Biggie. All these divers have a lot of weight on their shoulders right now to make sure that Celebrity can't just carry out a fight, that Emperor can't even necessarily just carry out a fight very easily. And being down a lot of items right now, both their divers sitting at not even 3 items for Playcool, only just now 3 items for 2T, does still make it difficult, but they showed just how talented they are in that previous fight, being able to do it. So I don't think it's out of the discussion yet.
And let's not forget as well, when you've got that many divers as AS Esports have, it becomes really easy for Xin on a champion like Rakan to be able to follow in with the battle dance into the quickness. And in the previous fights, every single time I see these fights and I see Xin looking to go in, Pele instantly with a polymorph on this Rakan stops the or throughout the team, Charmer Xin, trying to be engaged on by SBTC, but just has the grand exit to hop away over the red buff wall.
And this is a problem that I worry about here from the side of SE, which is, are you really needing like a really massive objective or a really big team fight in order to close out a game like this? It feels like you had enough of a commanding lead with like 5k. You had more than enough across the map to find anything you wanted. Biggie is going to get caught out here. I think that's just going to be the end of him very easily. But again, I feel like this is not something that should have been necessary from SE. Like the fact that they fumbled the bag around the Baron buff and gave ASE so much back was unnecessary. We're now at a 32-minute game when this probably should have been done closer to like the 27-minute mark, given just how powerful the SE was at one point in the game. And it's not really what I want to see. I'm not saying that this is like destructive to my prospects for them in the future here. They have a very good schedule coming into the end of the split. They will likely be one of our 4 playoff teams, if not 6 playoff teams. But goodness gracious, AS Esports have definitely made them work a lot harder than I think they're anticipating having to play here.
Quickness has been used. AS Esports looking for a way in. Maybe Enper being caught out. Keep your eyes on 2T on the flank, but AS Esports are just getting destroyed.
Who did you say? Who did you say was caught out?
Gets caught out.
Who got caught out? You said it was Enper, right? Yeah, you said Enper was
caught out. I can't call him the Emperor just yet because it's not been a dominant game from him, but SBTC, they get the inhibitor in the mid lane. They turn their attention towards the bot lane where there is a lovely minion wave awaiting them, and that will be the second inhibitor being secured.
Emperor Scissorhands coming in clutch right there. Again, it's just not had like the miraculous game I think we were anticipating. Like, this hasn't been like 4 solo kills against 2T and just like commanding every team fight, but he showed up when he's needed to. And honestly, Flame Horizon 2T right here, like, he's an absolute menace on the Gwen, has a ridiculous amount of damage for team fighting. To me, this is like him and Celebrity are 2 of the best team fighters on this team, and they show up when they need to, which I think is the most important thing about this squad, and something that I'm hoping that SE can try to build on as this play continues. Because to me, DNK is a lot more of an early game type jungler, somebody that wants to make action as quick as possible. And Dia1, like you said, having like more roam potential, having more intelligence, to me is a lot more valuable in the earlier stage of the game than in the hyper late game, hyper kind of team fight stage of the game. And so they have to use Celebrity and their Zoomer top laner in order to actually make the massive effect that I think they really want to have when it comes to closing out games, closing out big team fights. And Emperor's been able to stand up to that, be able to do that very effectively over the course of the split. And now back into an incredibly powerful position, 6k gold advantage, 3 dragons. Like I said, I don't want to see SE take this to 40 minutes. I feel like this is still their game to lose very significantly, but I would love to see them close that out just a little bit faster, especially in game 2 when the time comes. If they have won game 1, to close out game 2 in a decent amount of time would be massive to me for their confidence, and especially for their prospects going into the later portions of the splits.
But this comes back to what we were talking about, SBTC, and their weakness. If they don't get that really solid early game, they can look sketchy, and we've been seeing their team fights looking a little bit weak. AS Esports finding ways back into the game, and when SBTC greeded for that early Baron, that allowed AS Esports to end up winning a fight, getting Baron, stalling out this game a little bit longer, and now we're seeing SBTC back in control of this game. But again, AS Esports don't look down and out of this just yet.
No, they don't. Not quite completely gone. Easy Love is 4 items, right? This is 400 CS Sivir. This used to be the win condition in League of Legends, was just 400 CS Sivir as soon as you get the late game. 4 items feels good. You've got triple crit items with the Infinity Edge. You've got Malmortius just to make sure the dive doesn't happen against you. Maybe a chance to be had here for some kind of a team fight.
Biggie looking for a way in. He finds the kick onto Celebrity, but Playcool just can't follow up. In goes in, looking for the multi-man quickness, but just gets polymorphed. And Emperor comes in from the side. Easy Love will fall, and Playcool and 2T are the only 2 members left standing as SBTC crash on into AS Esports base, looking for Celebrity, but somehow Celebrity survives by the hair on his chinny chin. SBTC will take down the final 2 Nexus towers, and SBTC will take game 1